Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to create a beautiful and functional image slider using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So, if you're excited to level up your web development game and build a sleek image slider, let's get started.
Firstly, open your VS Code. Now click on Open folder and create a new folder and name it Slider Website. Now create HTML and CSS files index.html, style.css. Now create JavaScript file script.js. Now in HTML write boilerplate code and change this title to Slider Website. Now link CSS and HTML together. Now in bottom of body tag, write script tag and write src and write your JavaScript file name. Now we have to write our HTML code. Firstly create a header. Now inside this header create a nav tag. Inside nav tag create anchor tag and write home. Similarly create other elements about, services, work, contact. Now run this page. This is our navbar. Now create a div with class slider. Inside slider create a div with class list. Inside this write image tag. Inside this image tag we have to add images. So I have these images folder. Inside this folder I have these images which I use in my slider website. Simply copy this folder and go to VS Code and here right click and select reveal in file explorer. Now paste your images folder here. Now our images folder is added in our project and these are images here. Now in image tag write src and write your image path with image name and write alt and set it empty. After this image tag create a div with class content. Inside this create a div with class title and write here image slider. Now create a div with class type. Inside this you have to write your image name which is Iron Man, so I am writing here Iron Man. Now create a div with class description and here add the paragraph lorem. Now create a div with class name button and inside this create a button and write here see more. Now here create a div with class item. Now inside this create image tag, write src and write your second image path with image name and set alt empty. Now create a div with class content. Inside this content we have to paste this, so copy it and paste it here and change the type to Captain America. Similarly, we have to our third image, so copy this and paste it 2 times and change the image to image third and change title to Hulk. Similarly here change the image to image 4 and change the title to Spider-Man. Now create a div with class thumbnail. Inside this div, create a div with class item and inside this add image tag and src and write your image path with image name and set alt empty. Now copy this item div and paste it here 3 more times. Now change the images image 2, image 3, image 4. Now outside the thumbnail div, create a div with class arrow buttons and inside this create 2 buttons with class previous and next. Now our HTML code is completed and now it's time to style our website with CSS. Firstly give some basic styling and set margin and padding 0 and give box sizing border box and set a font family sans serif. Now give styling to body, set background black and color white. Now style our nav bar, so write nav curly braces and give height 50 px and set display flags and align item center. Now give margin 20% and give gap 30 px. Now give position relative and z index 100. Now give styling to anchor tag, write text decoration none and color white, font size 1.2 RAM, padding 10 px 20 px and give transition 0.25 seconds. Now give hover effect to anchor tags, give background and set border radius 5 px. Now we have to give styling to our slider. Height 100 px, margin from top minus 50 px and set width 100 vw and set overflow hidden and position will be relative. Now give styling to lists item, set width and height 100% and set position absolute and give inset 0000. Now give styling to image, set width and height 100% and give object fit cover. Now give styling to content, set position absolute top 20% and width 1140 px and give maximum width 80% and set left 50% and give transform to translate x minus 50%. Now give padding from right 30% and give box sizing border box, set color white and give text shadow. Now style our title, give font size 5 rem, font width 700 and give line height 1.3 m. Now we have to give styling to our type text, give font size 3 rem and font width 600 and give margin from bottom 20 px and set a color. Now we have to give styling to our see more button. Firstly give border none and background white and cursor pointer, font weight 500, transition 0.4 second and give padding 10 px and 20 px. Now give hover effect, right transform scale 1.2 and give border color and here set a border 2 px solid and give black color. Now our hover effect is working and looking good. Now give styling to thumbnail, right position absolute and from bottom 50 px and left 50% and give width max content and z index 100, give display flex and set a gap 20 px. Now give styling to thumbnail item, set width 150 px and height will be 220 px and flex shrink 0 and give position relative. Now give styling to thumbnail item image, set width and height 100%, object fit will be cover and border radius 20 px and give a box shadow. Set 5 px 0 15 px and give black color and reduce the opacity. Now we have to give styling to our arrow buttons. Give position absolute, top 80%, right 52%, Z index 100, width 300 px, max width 30% and display flex, give gap 10 px and align item center. Now give styling to next and previous button, width 40 px, height 40 px and border radius 50% and set a background color. Border none, set color white, font weight bold and set transition 0.5 second and set cursor pointer. Now set hover effect, give background color white and set color black. Now our arrow buttons hover effect is working properly and looking good. Now we have to give slider functionality using JavaScript. Here I am selecting the next button using document.query selector and storing it in the variable next button. Similarly, I am selecting the previous button and storing it in the variable previous button. Next, I am selecting the slider container and storing it in the slider variable. Inside the slider container, I am selecting the list of slider items and storing it in slider list. Now I am selecting the thumbnail container and storing it in the thumbnail variable. Finally, I am selecting all the thumbnail items inside the thumbnail container and storing them in thumbnail items. To set up the initial state, I am appending the first thumbnail item to the thumbnail container. Now we have to add event listeners for button. Here I am adding a click event listener to the next button. When it's clicked, it will call the move slider function with the argument next. And similarly, I am adding a click event listener to the previous button which will call the move slider function with the argument previous. Now let's create the move slider function. This function takes one argument direction which can be either next or previous. Inside the function, I first select all the slider items and thumbnail items. If the direction is next, I move the first slider item and thumbnail next to the end of the previous respective lists and add the next class to the slider. Otherwise, if the direction is previous, I move the last slider item and thumbnail item to the beginning of respective lists and add the previous class to the slider. Finally, I add an event listener for the animationed event. Once the animation ends, it removes the next or previous class, ensuring the slider is ready for the next iteration. Now our JavaScript code is complete and our slider functionality is working properly. Now it's time to give some animations, so go to style.css and give some animation. Right here .slider.list.item and child 1 curly braces z index 1. Write .slider.list.item and nth child 1 and content and title. Similarly, write for type and description and button. Now give transform translate by 50px, filter blur 20px, opacity 0. Now create animation, write at the red keyframes, name it show content, and inside this write to transform translate by 0px, filter blur 0px, and opacity 1. Now mention this animation here with 0.5 second, now 1 second linear and 1 forwards. Now we have to add animation delays. So copy this and paste it here and write animation delay 0.4 second and set it important. Similarly for type and give animation delay 0.6 second and for description 0.8 second and for button 1 second. Now we have to set animations for next button click. So right here dot slider dot next dot list dot item and child 1 image curly braces width 150px height 220px and set position absolute bottom 50px left 50% and set border radius 30px. Now we have to add animation. So right here at the red keyframes show image and set initial statement bottom 0, left 0, width 100% and height 100% and give border radius 0. Now mention this animation here, show image 0.5 second linear 1 second forwards. Now write dot slider dot next dot thumbnail dot item nth last child 1 curly braces overflow hidden and now write for list but for previous button z index 100 and write a keyframe show thumbnail from width 0 opacity 0. Now mention this show thumbnail 0.5 second linear one time forwards. Now write dot slider dot next dot thumbnail and set a animation here effect next dot 5 second linear 1 forwards and make keyframes effect next from transform translate x 150px. Now we have to add animation for previous button click. So right here dot slider dot prev dot list dot item nth child second curly braces z index 2. Now write same for image position absolute bottom 0 left 0. Now set a keyframe out frame to width 150px height 220px bottom 50px left 15% and border radius 20px. Now add this animation here, out frame 0.5 second, linear 1 forwards. Dot slider dot prev dot thumbnail dot item nth child 1 overflow hidden opacity 0 and right here animation show thumbnail zero point 0.5 second linear 1 forwards. Now we have to set pointer events for both next and previous button. So right here pointer events none. Now our previous button click animation is working properly. Now we have to add animation for previous sliders. So copy this and paste it here and change the nth child to second and change dot slider to dot slider dot prev and write a animation here content out 1.5 second linear 1 forwards important. Now make keyframes content out to transform translate x minus 150 px filter blur 20 px opacity 0. Now it's working very properly and looking amazing. Now we have to make our slider website responsive. So add media queries. So write here @media screen and maximum width 678 px. Now applying media to nav margin left 0 justify content center gap 10 px. Now write anchor tag curly braces font size 0.7 rem. Now for content, padding right 0 and for title, font size 50 px. Now our slider website is fully responsive and working very properly.
And that's how you can create your own image slider using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I hope you found this tutorial helpful and enjoyed building along with me. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more web development tutorials. Also, leave a comment below if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.